Here are the top stories for today, March 10, 2021. More vaccines on the way. The Philippines will secure some 30 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines from U.S. drug maker Novavax through a supply deal. Doses of Astrazeneca jabs for frontliners arrive in some provinces while other areas continue their vaccine rollout. What massacre? The palace challenges Vice President Leni Robredo to prove her claim on the death of 9 activists in recent police operations in Calabarzon. And no kisses and hugs in public for now. The PNP bans public display of affection among couples and friends to stem the rise in COVID-19 cases. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, the Philippines has signed a supply agreement for the 30 million doses of Novavax. COVID-19 vaccine czar Cardito Galvez Jr. flew to India yesterday to negotiate the procurement of the jabs developed by Novavax and manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque earlier announced that the Philippines has also signed purchase order for 1 million doses of China's Sinovac vaccine and 13 million doses of U.S.'s biotech firm Moderna. Another 7 million doses of Moderna is also being negotiated for the private sector. Roque said the negotiations for the supply agreement for Johnson & Johnson vaccines are still in progress. Private hospitals participate in the COVID-19 vaccine rollout of the government. This as more vaccines arrived in their respective provinces. In Cebu City, some 20,000 doses of Astrazeneca COVID-19 vaccines have arrived at the Mactan Cebu International Airport this morning. The jabs are transported to the Department of Health in the region on board a refrigerated van. The Health Department earlier disinfected their storage facility, which has a capacity of up to 100,000 vaccines. Meanwhile, medical frontliners from Perpetual Succar Hospital join 100 other healthcare workers in the vaccination rollout. Other hospitals that simultaneously administered the vaccine are the Cebu Doctors Hospital Group and Chonghua Hospital. In Iloilo City, additional 16,880 doses of Sinovac vaccines and 10,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines also arrived this morning. Over 2,000 employees of the Western Visayas Medical Center are targeted for the inoculation using Sinovac vaccines. A group called Bakuna Iloilo, composed of advocates and professionals, was earlier launched to help spread awareness on the benefits of getting the COVID-19 jabs. Another province which also received the vaccine this morning is the Bicol region. Local officials are now set to inoculate their frontline healthcare workers with the arrival of the 22,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines. Health workers in Pampanga are relieved after getting the shot of the COVID-19 vaccine, as they are now protected against the dreaded disease. More on this and other news in the provinces from Chris Crismundo.
In San Fernando, Pampanga, some 400 healthcare workers of the Jose B. Lingad Memorial General Hospital received anti-COVID-19 vaccines on Monday. Among the healthcare workers inoculated with the Sinovac vaccine is Hospital Chief Dr. Montserrat Chichioco. She said it is not as painful and dangerous as what others say, and all vaccines have the same goal, which is to prevent the spread of infection and death. The government allocated more than 4,000 Sinovac vaccines for the healthcare community in the province. In Pangasinan, most of the healthcare workers who were vaccinated with the first batch of Sinovac vaccine said they got it to protect themselves, their patients, and their families. Among these is Dr. Agnes Di Maano. She said she felt privileged and happy being vaccinated because she is now confidently safe in caring and treating patients with COVID-19. The province received some 25,600 doses of both Sinovac and AstraZeneca vaccines last Monday. 10,000 doses of Astrazeneca vaccines will be given to the frontline medical workers aged 60 and above. 14,400 Sinovac vaccines will be distributed to the medical workers both in public and private hospitals, while the 1,200 doses are allocated for the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Naval Forces Northern Luzon. And in Zamboanga City, vaccination activities rolled out in private hospitals yesterday after the City Health Office got their share of 2,000 vials of Sinovac vaccines. At least 458 health workers from public hospitals have been inoculated as of Monday. All hospitals were given 7 days to complete their vaccination program. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Local government units in Metro Manila must adopt uniform curfew hours as part of quarantine protocols. The Department of the Interior and Local Government says this is to ensure easier compliance from the public and to avoid confusion. Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya says this would also make the enforcement of the measure easier for Metro Manila police officers. Right now, some LGUs start curfew hours at 10 p.m. while others begin at midnight until the early hours of the morning. Aside from curfew, LGUs can also enforce localized lockdowns to curb the spread of the virus. Metro Manila Development Authority Chair Benhur Abalos says mayors in the region will meet this week on possible changes in policies which include unified curfew hours. Meanwhile, the city of San Juan has already reimposed curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. beginning March 9. Caloocan has also followed suit with curfew hours from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. starting today and have introduced the use of color-coded quarantine passes. Meanwhile, Manila will lock down 2 villages and 2 buildings due to a rise in COVID-19 cases effective tomorrow until Sunday, March 14. A lawmaker is calling for the swift passage of the proposed Bayanihan to Arise as One Act, or the Bayanihan 3. Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo made the call after the Philippine Statistics Authority reveals that the overall unemployment rate last year is estimated at 10.3%. This is equivalent to 4.5 million Filipinos who are available to work but out of a job. Said figure is twice the unemployment rate in 2019, which was at 2.26 million. Kimbo said the proposed Bayanihan 3 provides 52 billion pesos to help subsidize wages of workers in small businesses, aside from the 30 billion pesos for assistance to the unemployed and 108 billion pesos for additional social amelioration. She also called for the passage of her proposed unemployment insurance for the workers. Still to come, Malacanang challenges Vice President Leni Robredo to prove her claim that last weekend's police operations in Calabarzon is a massacre. And police officers will apprehend those showing public display of affection to curb the spread of COVID-19. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP, at ng himpilang ito.
Malacanang challenged Vice President Leni Robredo to prove her claim that the death of at least 9 activists in a series of police raids in Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, and Rizal provinces is massacre. Robredo earlier condemned what she called a massacre of 9 activists during simultaneous police raids on Sunday. She also called for a clean and independent investigation to ensure that people behind the death of 9 activists will be held accountable. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, is currently investigating the death of the 9 activists. The Commission on Human Rights also announced that it will investigate the incident.
Unang-una, kung personal na nakita ni Vice President yung pangyayari, abay magbigay siya ng ebidensya. Kasi ang pananalita niya, parang nakita ng dalawa niyang mata kung ano nangyari doon sa mga patayan na yon, no? Pag hindi siya nagbigay ng ebidensya, kasalanan din po yan, baka siyang makasuhan, no? Pero kung hindi niya nakita ang pangyayari, gaya ng Presidente at gaya ng sambayan ng Pilipino, mag-antay ng resulta ng investigasyon. Dahil, naku, abogado pa naman po tayo pare-pareho, no?
Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara said the NBI will look into reports that local police units were allegedly involved in a gunfight that resulted in the death of at least 6 individuals, including 3 policemen and CALBAYOG City Mayor Ronaldo Aquino. The 58-year-old Aquino, 3 policemen and 2 civilians were killed Monday afternoon in a shootout at Laboyao Bridge in Lonoy Village. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, will work with the Commission on Human Rights to gain access to key witnesses in cases involving extrajudicial killings that have gone cold due to a lack of viable testimonies. Justice Menardo Guevara said that the best way to get the full trust of witnesses is to produce positive results. However, they need their cooperation in the investigation to get those results. For this, the CHR agreed to help and serve as conduit for witnesses if needed. The DOJ is part of the Administrative Order 35 Task Force, the Interagency Committee on Extrajudicial Killings and Forced Disappearances, Torture, and other grave violations on the right to life, liberty, and security of persons. The DOJ chief earlier said they will dig deeper into the death of 9 alleged members of the so-called progressive groups in southern Tagalog over the weekend. Heads up for couples, you might want to reserve your kisses and hugs for your partners in private. Cops will now call out those engaged in public display of affection amid the continued rise in COVID-19 cases. PNP spokesperson Brigadier General Ildebrandi Usana made the announcement saying the measure is part of enforcing physical distancing as among minimum health protocols. Among prohibited acts are kissing, hugging, and holding of hands in public places. The ban on PDA also covers family members and even friends. He says the measure also teaches people to show love and care for their significant others through avoiding physical contact that will protect them from infection. Malacanang expressed confidence that the government is ready to transform the Philippines into a cashless society, given that the country is still grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic. This as a survey conducted by moneytransfers.com, an international money transfer firm, showed that the Philippines joined the list of nations that will support a completely cashless society. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque guaranteed that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is taking measures to pursue cashless transactions in the country. Some experts have warned that COVID-19 may remain infectious for weeks on banknotes. BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno earlier said the Philippines is expected to be a coinless society by 2025 as the National Quick Response Code Standard, or QRPH, is seen to scale up contactless payments. The BSP aims to do at least 50% of all financial transactions digitally by the year 2023. Angat Dam will not lack water to supply until April or the onset of the summer, despite expected below normal rainfall in its area. State Weather Bureau PAGASA said Angat's water is at a high level until next month, which can still supply for irrigation and power, as well as potable water to Metro Manila. PAGASA reported Angat Dam 6 a.m. water level was at 209.50 meters on Tuesday, higher than the 180 meters minimum operating level of the facility. The Weather Bureau expects the water level to dip to about 200 meters by end of March, but this is still above the minimum level. It said the expected above normal rainfall in the watershed this May and June will help Angat replenish its reserve and further enhance its potential to supply water. In celebration of International Women's Day, Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez highlighted the important role of women entrepreneurs as the country pushes for post-COVID-19 recovery. Lopez said DTI remains committed to help women-led MSMEs and aspiring entrepreneurs who will push for the economy's growth to pre-COVID levels and beyond. The DTI paid tribute on Monday to women-led micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs during the virtual graduation ceremony for the 3A or Accept, Adapt, Act program. The DTI also launched the 3A program Batch 2 Handog Kabuhayan Alay kay Juana. Meanwhile, the National Council of Women Philippines will grant 75 livelihood kits worth 10,000 pesos each for 75 women entrepreneurs at the end of the 3A program. Up next, Aklan hopes the vaccine rollout in the country will help the renowned island of Boracay rise again as a top tourism site. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Commission on Population and Development, or POPCOM, renewed its call for special protection for Filipino women as cases of violence remain prevalent during the pandemic. POPCOM on Tuesday said 1 of 4 adult Filipinos have said harmful acts are among the most pressing problems of women during the present health crisis. 11% mentioned physical violence as their top concern, while sexual violence and emotional violence were at 7% each. Based on police accounts, about 19,700 cases of violence against women were recorded in 2019 or before the pandemic. POPCOM Executive Director Undersecretary Juan Antonio Perez III said the Philippines leads the global community in championing the causes of women. The Philippines ranked 16th in the Global Economic Forum's Gender Gap Index. The local government of Aklan has urged industry players in Boracay to get vaccinated so that the island would be open to the world. Aklan Governor Florencio Millaflores on Tuesday said he requested for 40,000 doses of vaccine for Boracay from the National Interagency Task Force. Miraflores said the tourism sector has a huge contribution to the country's gross domestic product, amounting to 56 billion pesos. However, the provision of vaccines prioritizes the health sector and the elderly. The governor expressed confidence that the government will prioritize Boracay once the tourism sector is allowed to receive vaccines. On Tuesday, the province of Aklan received its over 2,400 vials of the Sinovac vaccine from the Department of Health. Bulk of the vaccines went to Dr. Rafael S. Tumbucon Memorial Hospital in the rollout held on Wednesday. In sports, Japan is planning to hold the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games this summer without international spectators. Kyodo News said the government decided to bar overseas spectators in the Olympics and Paralympics to prevent the spread of coronavirus variants. The government and the organizing committee in Japan plan to talk via video conference with the International Olympic Committee next week to make an official decision about overseas visitors. Meanwhile, the Olympic torch relay will start on March 25, but the opening ceremony will be without spectators for health reasons. The 2020 Olympics is scheduled to be held in Tokyo from July 23 until August 8, followed by the Paralympics from August 24 to September 5. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples will launch 3 coffee table books under Project Epanaw or Journey on March 14, showcasing the indigenous peoples and cultural communities and their contributions to sustainable development. NCIP Chairperson Secretary Alan Capuyan said the agency pays tribute to IPs as well as highlights the importance of protecting their ancestral domains. The first coffee table book, Pagkilala, showcases the profiles of each ICC and IP. The second book, Paggalang, features festivals and rituals that the IPs practice. The third book, Pagtaguyod, contains travel destinations and ancestral domains for ecotourism. The launch will include month-long photo exhibits in SM Lanang Premier in Davao City and in SM Aura Premier in Taguig City, followed by photo exhibits nationwide. During the said launch, the NCIP will also kick off the second phase of Project Epanaw, which aims to scale up research and documentation of indigenous knowledge systems and practices. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. More vaccines on the way. The Philippines will secure some 30 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines from U.S. drug maker Novavax through a supply deal. Doses of Astrazeneca jabs for frontliners arrive in some provinces while other areas continue their vaccine rollout. What massacre? The palace challenges Vice President Leni Robredo to prove her claim on the death of 9 activists in recent police operations in Calabarzon. And no kisses and hugs in public for now. The PNP bans public display of affection among couples and friends to stem the rise in COVID-19 cases. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies, also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. And this March, we celebrate all of the women, not only in this country, but all over the world and their importance to society. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.